Good morning.
Whatever turns you on.
Welcome to the October meeting of the Long Island Committee. And do we have any public comments? Okay. Okay. Right up there, there's the podium.
Let me know when you want me to begin.
Go right ahead.
Okay. My wife and I have lived in a co-op apartment opposite the Forest Hills Long Island Railroad Station for 26 years, and for 24 of those years we lived in symbiotic harmony with the railroad. This situation changed, however, when Helena Williams became LIRR president in May of 2007. When she came in, the LIRR immediately changed its horning policy and required its trains to sound their horns as they passed through our station. The railroad claimed they were adhering to FRA regulations, but they were wrong, which we quickly pointed out to them. After a year of constant fighting, they finally admitted their mistake and reversed their policy. Why so long? Why make innocent people suffer? Why doesn't the LIRR care about people who live along their right-of-way? They don't, you know. I was told by Karen Koslowitz, the Assistant Borough President of Queens, that in a meeting of various officials, Ms. Williams said that people who live along the tracks should get used to whatever the railroad chooses to do because it was their decision to live next to the tracks. They could have lived elsewhere. The LIRR's latest quality of life outrage concerns their turning up the volume on the chimes that announce the opening and closing of train doors in the station. This is a letter to the editor that my wife and I had published dealing with this noise pollution offense. Last spring, the LIRR began to add new expensive train doorbells that could be heard blocks away from its stations, binging and dinging throughout the day and night. Previously, those of us who've lived alongside LIRR stations and tracks for 20 years or more never heard a train door chime except when standing on the station platform. According to several LIRR conductors and one LIRR public affairs official, the new doorbell's advanced technology has no volume control. When LIRR public affairs officials were questioned about this latest LIRR noise pollution outrage to hit thousands of hapless residents who live along the LIRR right-of-way, one official stated that LIRR was trying to help commuters who were deaf. Deaf? Do you mean those who hear nothing? The LIRR official then explained that the railroad was also concerned about keeping the drunks riding the train safer. Really? In the 20-plus years that we have been commuting on the LIRR, we've never witnessed commuters with hearing aids having difficulty in figuring out that the train doors open and close when a train comes into a station. In addition, the conductor is still required to stick his or her head out of the window to make sure all is well before closing the doors and moving the train out of the station. Common sense and common decency require that those new LIRR train doorbells be switched off now. Last paragraph. By the way, the railroad has denied that they've turned the volume up on the door chimes, despite the many claims on that issue that have been registered with our local legislature by community residents. But lying to the public has become standard operating procedure for the Long Island Railroad since Ms. Williams came on board, so I can't say that I'm shocked by their prevarications. Just angry and frustrated, there seems to be so little that the average citizen can do to curb the bad behavior of a corporate entity that seems to be beyond the regulation of even our government. At least that's what many of our local legislatures have told me. I've also been told that the only thing the Long Island Railroad will respond to is bad publicity and lawsuits. That's no way to run a railroad. Thank you.
The next public speaker is Catherine Livingston.
We're very familiar with Mr. and Mrs. Levinson's complaints. They have been in frequent contact with the Long Island Railroad, and I think that he does continue to have some misperceptions about the railroad and about our policies. But with regard to horn noise, there has been actually a reduction in horn noise since my tenure at the railroad. We did reduce the number of horn soundings required when a train is passing through the station and is not stopping. And we did have a meeting with elected officials who were representing concerns from the community. And in a direct response to those concerns, we did review our horn rules, and we did note that we were able to change this one. We also have been working hard because we have had other complaints, about horn noise on Long Island, and we worked hard to develop a program to where we were permitted by the FRA to reduce the number of horn soundings. With regard to the door chimes, we have been not making any change in the door chimes that came with the M7s. They are set at an audible level to warn customers that the doors are going to be closing. They have been the same since the M7s came into service. I will say that they are loud. I do know that it is, a very piercing sound. But we do it because we're meeting the FRA standards, and we are trying to accommodate not just hearing impaired customers, but other customers who need the warning that they should prepare, to clear the door. And this is been one of our concerns with regard to gap accidents as well. So we are not in a position where we could change the door chimes and the audible level. We'll continue to work, particularly with the Levinsons. We know that they have concern and that they don't always get the most precise information from some of our train crews. So we have put in place someone for them to speak to directly at the Long Island Railroad that would give them more informed responses. So we continue to be concerned, and I would, continue to talk with the Levinsons.
The requirement that we sound the horn going by stations to which we do not stop is a federal requirement?
It was a Long Island Railroad operating rule. It wasn't guided by federal guidelines, and we changed it in direct response to their concerns. And in fact, because so many of our train crews were used to sounding the horn just out of, just a regular way in which they had been doing business for so many years, we actually did a whole program of reinstruction, and we stationed a supervisor to audit trains going through to make sure that the engineers understood that there was a change in the rule. And I will say, again, the community was very supportive of that. They were very helpful. The engineer will still sound the horn if there are people at the edge of the platform. But we even put signage, again, at the suggestion of the community, we put signage that said, stand behind the line, to avoid people, standing at the edge where we would have to sound the horn. So we are very cognizant of the community's concern over train noise, and we're trying to do everything we can to be responsive to them. You're always concerned when you think public officials are at meetings and then they may be, summarizing statements that were made. I think most of you know I would not sound as callous as just was reported. But I do try to balance the notion that the railroad does have a long history of its operations, and in many times we are in locations before communities sprang up, so that when people are, assessing where they want to live and what, is going to be in their environment and their surroundings, the railroad has been there, and the train operation has not substantially changed.
Thank you.
Okay. My topic was oversight of the Long Island Railroad by entities outside of the MTA and the Long Island Railroad. I just would like to briefly address a couple of things that Helena Williams stated. Yes, I agree. The horn has been reduced over the last year, but that was after 1 year of literally 14L horror. Prior to Helena Williams' sojourn, we had not this issue at all. So if you say, is it better than 1 year ago, I would say yes. If you say, is it better or the same as it was prior to Helena Williams' sojourn, I would say no way, not at all. And therein lies some of the problems. We also, my topic is oversight. I'm going to be talking about it in two separate issues. One is equipment. oversight in terms of how we purchase equipment for the Long Island Railroad that makes sense within a tightly packed urban suburban area. And the second has to do with what Ms. Williams mentioned herself, and that is communication problems from public officials to residents. And most of the communication problems that we've had actually have come directly from officials. So I'm going to address equipment, and then I'm going to go into communication gaps. Firstly, to purchase M7 horns that are directed so that they point into people's houses. That is not a direction that faces down the tracks, but a direction that faces side to side. We would like to know who made such a decision, because the federal regulations do not require the horns to face sideways into people's homes. Now, after a year of outrage, that was finally controlled somewhat by a program about muffling the horns, but that program will take 2 years. Senior citizens who I know have told me they feel like they want to throw themselves on the tracks. Other people who actually have hearing aids say that they have to turn them off when they're in their homes, still to this date, because there are a number of engineers who keep horning through our viaduct station as if it was 14L. We still, in fact, have that problem. In terms of other types of equipment, since spring, late winter, spring, the doorbells on the M7s started sounding from what you could simply hear on the station to 3 blocks away. I know that there are no FRA regulations that require the door chimes to sound 3 blocks away. Again, the question is, what type of equipment are we purchasing? And I have gotten emails that say that this came with the M7 train since '02. This is not accurate. We have not heard them since the spring '09, and we have had reports by many people who contradict, many reports of Long Island Railroad employees that contradict that particular report, that those doorbells and that sounding was in place in '02. This brings me to the other major problem that we're having. The doorbells is really just the tip of the iceberg in terms of, in quotes, miscommunication that the railroad has had. When we first had the M7 horning, we were told by Danielle at the Public Affairs Office, by Bob Brennan, and by a number of other people that it was atmospheric conditions. Then we were told that that it was FRA regulations, even though our station had no grade crossings. They were telling us they had to sound FRA regulations. They were sending us emails that they had to sound FRA regulations. Even at the same time, they were telling other communities to build viaducts so that they would not have this sound problem. We also caught another Long Island official, a railroad official, his name is James, in print, stating to a reporter that the reason why the trains were sounding was, and the people were complaining, was because of tree pruning. At that time, the reporter sweetly asked him, "Oh, you mean in February? You mean now there's tree pruning?" And he had to say no. This type of thing has continued throughout this particular sojourn. Another thing was, when we were first trying to get the horns muted, we were told that there was no Long Island Railroad policy until an engineer actually took his engineer handbook and physically was willing to show it to us. And there indeed was a rule that had been recently inserted that said the trains were to horn Forest Hills, Woodside, and Kew Gardens with 14L in certain hours. And that had not been there before. And that was, again, something the railroad emphatically denied. The problem is, it's not that we are getting misinformation from the average employees. We are getting misinformation from the Office of Public Affairs on a regular basis. The last thing that I heard was we have to have the doorbells because of the visually impaired. Well, I'm sure everyone has at least some acquaintance or colleague who is visually impaired, and one of the most insulting things you can do to that visually impaired person is to shout at them as if they're deaf. Visually impaired people can hear regular chime horns. They don't have to hear door chimes that go for 3 blocks. We also have...
Can you conclude your remarks? We are limited to...
Yes, I will.
And we will be more than happy to provide additional information to you in that regard. I will work with the president of the railroad and the vice president for operations to get you whatever information you require in this regard, but
This is
I
in
have
the-
read your materials. I know you've sent us letters. I have read all those letters. We have communicated the information back to the president, and we will provide you with additional
Fine.
information
I would just like to make one.
in that regard. Go
I
ahead.
would just like to make one final comment. Thank you so much for hearing us again today.
Go
Sometimes
ahead.
it takes a while to get heard through the Long Island Railroad, through all the other noise that they are making. We need, number one, more clear and truthful communication from the Public Affairs Department. That is a problem. And number two, we need equipment that makes sense for a tightly packed suburban urban environment. Places like Chicago have done really well for their commuters. I thank you.
Next speaker is Murray Bowden.
Good morning. My name is Murray Bowden. I represent concerned grandparents. A couple of housekeeping chores. Could you bring that camera in a lot tighter? I don't want on a tape my picture in the background picking my nose. You can tighten it up because they did last week. The other thing is I'd like to have a timer up there, a countdown timer that counts down from 2 minutes so I know when my time is up. This is out of my line of vision. I can't see it. I'm dyslexic. I'm also somewhat hard of hearing, and my eyesight's going. Unfortunately, I'm getting older. So if you put a countdown timer up there, I'd meet your time constraints, because we're entitled to it. 2 minutes is enough time. If we can't get to it, we'll learn. I was going to speak about Metro North and the Tappan Zee. Things have changed, and HOV lanes and bus lanes, and then I heard this business about the horns, which I'd never heard before. I came in on a train from Hartsdale this morning, and the train from Wassaic went by. I don't think I heard the horn. Now, the people on Long Island are different than the people in Westchester. They need a horn. Wait, who's laughing? I mean, it's a different grade of people in Long Island. They're not safe unless you blow this horn. We don't get that horn. We're more something else. Horns are something that were necessary a long time ago. It's one of those items of change. The whole thing I want to talk about is the fact that we can't change. Westchester does not understand rail doesn't belong on a Tappan Zee bridge. They can't understand we need a railroad station underneath the bridge. They're using information that's years and 5 years old. The world's changed. We use computers now. We didn't use computers 5 years ago. Long Island, crazy place. They have the center HOV lanes in the center. You can't get to them. 10 years ago, you needed to separate them because we couldn't control it. Now we control it with cameras. If you read what the new chairman said in the Times the other day, we control bus lanes as if they were separate roadways, and we do it with cameras. I got a red light ticket in New York City. I never even realized I passed the red light. Excellent. And this was 3 years ago. If you're going to be in a bus lane, you're going to get a ticket because the camera's going to be on the front of the bus. And if you can't get the camera on the front of the bus to keep the lane free, you're not doing your job. Resign and get somebody else in here. I just had to apologize to Howard Permit a few minutes ago because I've been after him. But he talks to me. He doesn't necessarily have to agree with me. But if you can't talk and discuss these kind of things, replace yourself or let them replace you. This is a new environment, a flexible environment, controlled by computers. We don't need fixed lanes anymore. Bus lanes are controlled on and off, whether they're in 34th Street or Fordham Road or in the middle of the Long Island Expressway. You people on Long Island are nuts. You put an HOV lane in the middle that you can't get to. It belongs on the outside. You go in there, grind the lines off, and put the HOV lane on the outside. Then your buses can get on and get off as you need them and expand the bus service. Peter Calico was right 8 years ago when he said we want buses from Patchogue to Poughkeepsie. Jim just said at the last meeting they're beginning to talk about it, right? It's about time. When Long Island gets the set of lanes, the HOV lanes, out of the middle of the Long Island Expressway and put them on the outside where they belong, we've made some progress. Now, I have no idea how long I talked. Probably over my 2 minutes, and I apologize. It was not my intention to go 1 second over 2 minutes, but I can't see it up there. This is out of my line of vision.
Thank you. There's one thing I'm pleased about, it's that we don't control the HOV lane. We have enough trouble controlling MTA at the moment. But I will provide your comments to the Commissioner of DOT. No. We're done. No, we're done. We're done. We're done.
You're not by yourself anymore.
I understand that, but we do not control the HOV lane. But I will relay your comments to the Commissioner of Transportation, who does. You're welcome. Minutes. Anybody have any problems with the minutes from the last meeting? Second. All in favor? Okay. MTA Long Island Bus. Joseph.
Good morning. There are no changes to the work plan this month. My next item is the operations performance report. Overall August bus service performance was strong. AM and PM weekday pullouts and completed trips were all above 99% for both the month of August and the previous 12 months. Bus MDBF was 2974 in August, which is up 48.2% from August of 2008. It's the highest MDBF reported since 2005, and I think September may be the highest ever on record. The 12-month average MDBF is 7.5% higher than it was a year ago. In regard to safety performance, the 12-month rate for bus collisions per million miles traveled worsened by 8.9% from last year. It's mainly because we changed some of the way we count accidents, and accidents are now counted the same way for all three bus companies. The 12-month rate for employee on-duty lost time accidents improved by 36% from the 2008 level. Bus ridership is trending downward for the last 12 months through August in comparison to the previous year. Total fixed route ridership decreased by 8.4% for the month of August and was down 4.3% for the previous 12 months. Average weekday ridership was down 7% for the month of August and 4.3% for the 12-month period. Average weekend ridership was down 8.8% for the same time and down 5.5% for the 12-month period. However, paratransit ridership continues to increase. In comparison to 2008, ridership increased by 2.1% for the month of August and 6.9% for the previous 12 months. Next is the finance report. I'm happy to report that Nassau County legislators have reduced the original budget cut from 2.7 to 1.4, but I'm not happy with the 1.4, so hopefully we could do something about that.
That issue, I assume, will be part of the 2010 budget discussion.
Yes.
Because that's when that will, assuming it stays in place, will occur, and Long Island Bus will have to make the appropriate changes to reflect it.
Yes.
Okay.
Fixed route farebox revenue was lower than mid-year forecast by 6.4% for the month of August 2009. Year-to-date, it's 1.7% below the mid-year forecast. Paratransit farebox revenue was better than mid-year forecast by 10.5% for the month of August, and it's 4.3% above forecast for the year. Actual non-reimbursable expenses before non-cash adjustments were lower than mid-year forecast by 2.4% or 2.9%, and that's mainly the underrun is because of the lower CNG fuel prices that is forecasted for right now. Favorable adjustments to forecasted expenses for claims and timing-related underruns for maintenance and other operating contracts is mainly why we're down to $2.4 million. We have no action items, ratifications, or competitive procurements this month, but we do have two non-competitive procurements for the committee's approval. The first one is a sole source purchase contract to Air and Power Transmission for oil carbon separator kits to be installed on our buses. The amount is not to exceed $76,000. The second is a non-competitive item is a request for Long Island Bus and MTA Bus to award two sole source miscellaneous service contracts for the maintenance support of existing SmartStream payroll systems through April 2010. The contracts, one for Long Island Bus and one for MTA Bus, will be awarded to Infor Global Solutions. The amount of the contract is not to exceed $57,508. Each contract will be funded from the respective agency's operating budget.
Does anybody have any questions on either of the two contracts? Motion to approve? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
We have 3 informational items for the work plan this month. One item is that we're rolling out on Long Island buses. Starting in January, we're going to be using a UTS program. It's a Unified Timekeeping System. It's in place in other depots in the TA, and what this allows is when the business service center kicks in, it allows you to better manage, it allows the person who operates the depot to better manage his workforce. It allows you to plan your extra list and allows you the assignment schedules and everything to be more efficient. It's really a great tool. So we're going to start rolling that out in January. The second is our capital program quarterly report for third quarter 2009. We got 4 sedans were delivered and put into power transit service, and an open punch list of items is being addressed to close out the modification of the power transit facility and upgrade to the Hempstead Transit Center. The second work plan item is the quarterly bus technology report. This quarter's report covers the status of various bus technology products. Next, I'll ask Norm Silverman to talk about an upcoming service adjustment we have as an informational item, and also to tell you about some new bus stop signs that we're going to be rolling out in Nassau County.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On the service change issue that you have in your book, this is a continuation of our efforts. As you know, I've been before the committee before. We're trying to take the core network routes, streamline them where we can, and reschedule them to run reliable, consistent, uniform service intervals, or term we use, headway. On the Northern Boulevard corridor served by 2 routes, the N20 between Flushing Main Street and Hicksville, and the N21, which runs between Flushing Main Street and Glen Cove. We're, as part of an effort to reschedule the corridor, provide uniform, even service intervals in a corridor we think is rather underserviced, as a matter of fact, and has potential for growth. We're going to be slightly revising the path of the N20 in the vicinity in the Greenvale or Westbury area, where currently all trips now, 7 days a week, make a little detour in both directions in and out of the New York Institute of Technology to an off-street sheltered area. We're going to continue to do that, but we're not going to do it during the weekday when we run limited stop trips, and we're not going to do it on weekends when on Saturdays there's very few number of classes, and on Sundays there are no classes. What this will do is improve reliability, deliver a better travel product, better service product, and fit in with our plans to reschedule the entire corridor. This will happen in early January as part of this rescheduling effort.
I assume as part of this, we inform the college and everybody there.
Right
so
after
that
this meeting, there's a letter on my desk to go to the college right after
Okay,
this meeting. Yes,
so
sir.
they can inform the commuter students of the change in the nature of the service.
That's correct. And when for those trips, and they're not on the weekday, there's only approximately 5 to 6 trips in each direction that will bypass it. On the weekends, it'll be all trips. There is a stop on Northern Boulevard adjacent to this location, and when they have to cross Northern Boulevard, there is a pedestrian-activated traffic signal, so the crossing can be made safely.
Okay.
The second item that Joe wanted me to talk about was bus stop information signs, and I'll show you what we're planning to do there. Basically, we're planning to upgrade the information sign, not the regulatory sign, not the stops that says this is a bus stop, don't stop here, but the stop says that this is the N35.5 bus route going to East Babylon, if that's where we're going. And we're doing there as part of a federal grant. We're going to upgrade the signs, and I'll show you what they'll look like.
Well, even though this sign, Norm, is going to show you some signs that the original sign really wasn't multi-directional. The new signs we're going to put up where we can will be that you're able, if you're walking to the bus stop, you're able to tell that it is the N31 from both directions.
This is the current sign, and I think you can see that you can probably, from your distance at the head of the table, make out the route number, but you sure can't figure out the destination.
Right.
That's what we're trying to improve, to make it more visible. And so we're making the sign a little larger, and that's what exists today. This is a mock-up. Now, we can't make it too large because you don't want it too wide, but this is about 5 inches wider. This is what it's going to look like. The corners will be rounded. They won't be square, but for a cardboard mock-up, we couldn't make the corners rounded. But this is what it's going to look like, and you can see it's much more legible, And what Joe said is exactly true. What we're going to do is where we can, we're going to install them back to back because traditionally the signs are installed in the direction of the traffic approaching it. But as you know, a pedestrian on the street may be approaching the bus stop from either direction.
Right.
So where we physically can, we'll install it in both ways.
Okay. And that installation will start when, Joe?
In about a month.
About a month? And how long will it take to complete the system, or as much as we have?
I don't have a precise answer. We've been evolving this. We're going to have to go out to contract to manufacture these, so it's a bit of time. I'm sure
Okay.
playing this out will take the better part of a year plus. But
Okay.
but you'll start seeing them out there, and the text will match the destination sign on the bus.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have also been providing shuttle bus support to our friends at the Long Island Railroad while they plan maintenance over the weekends. We did it last weekend. We're going to do a really big shuttle this weekend. In fact, last weekend, we, as a whole agency, the MTA provided double the amount of bus shuttles, over 886 bus shuttles last weekend as a whole, and that was double the record that was from last year. As we go forward, we find that it's better for us to provide the shuttle service. We can do it. We know the routes. We have better equipment than the average bear does, and at the end of the day, we're able to work with the railroad better to make sure that when people are, if their trip is interrupted, that it's the least amount of inconvenience as possible.
Good.
This concludes my remarks.
Joe, just
on the
one
agenda.
question. You've now started to implement the smaller vehicles for paratransit in
Yeah.
Nassau County?
Yes, we've got
Which
several.
we talked about, I think, at the last
We've got 4 of
meeting.
them. We started implementing them. They're very well received. The operator of the vehicle is able to get around much quicker with the small sedan, and it's really turning out to be a home run.
Good. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Joe on Long Island Bus? Okay. Helena?
We would just echo Joe's closing comments. We really get outstanding cooperation with Long Island Bus on shuttle service when we do service outages. We could not manage the same size and scope of the work that we accomplish without cooperation. It's a terrific operation, Joe, and we say thanks.
Thank you.
This weekend coming up is a huge one.
Yeah.
That's the Valley Interlocking No Service on our South Shore branches. Okay, with that, I'm going to move along quickly. We'll be talking to you again about Valley on the work plan. We'll do that at the end. We're going to go right to the financial report, and that's Mark Young.
Good morning. The financial report, I'll start with ridership, as I usually do, which is on page 19 of the book. The book includes the final August numbers, but I'll address preliminary September numbers, which are more up to date. September was another slow month for us. During the month, total ridership was down 5.3%. Commutation was down 9.9%. Obviously, the employment situation in the region is driving that. Our 40% of our market is in the financial sector and professional and business sector. Those two were down. Employment was down 8.5% and 4.3%, respectively, in those categories. So obviously, that's affecting commutation. Interestingly, non-commutation was up 1.7% during the month of September. That's the first month since April that we've had an increase in that category. Leisure travel was up 27%. There was some good weather this month. And we also think due to several holidays during the month, people had purchased 10-trip tickets instead of their regular commutation tickets. So that
It
may have had...
obviously wasn't people going to Met games.
Oh, ouch. The year-to-date total
And that's why
rider...
the October numbers will be down, right? On that.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no effect. It was nothing in October
our
last
friends
year
at Metro
either.
North get the benefit this month. Yes. Go ahead.
Year-to-date, we've transported 63 million customers. That's 4.9% less than 2008 at this point. Obviously, 2008 was a fantastic year for ridership for us. However, we're only down less than 1% versus our forecast because we had adjusted for most of this in the July plan. You're aware of the new Meadowlands tickets. We've transported 8,341 riders to the Meadowlands since that service was started. Most of them were for football games, although there were about 1,600 that went to concerts. Are there any questions on ridership? Okay, with that, I'll move on to the budget, which starts on page 4 of the document. Year to date, our total revenue is $477 million, which is just about right on the forecast. We're a little bit better than our forecast. Despite the lower fare box revenues so far, we've generated more revenue on capital reimbursement and other types of revenues such as advertising and real estate. On expenses, $1.1 billion has been spent so far, and that's 1.5% favorable or less than the forecast. Labor costs are almost right on to the budget, within 1%. On the non-labor side, we've seen favorable $23 million less spent than we had forecasted through this point, and that's largely due to the timing of maintenance contract expenditures and also the timing of usage for materials. Our fare box operating ratio is 43.5%, which is 0.7% better than it was through July, due to all the reasons I just went through. That's a quick synopsis of the financial report. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Question? Okay.
We're going to turn now to status of operations, but before Ray Kenny gives you the regular report, I wanted to make a report about our review, investigation, and corrective action as a result of an August 1 train incident. On August 1, 2009, a westbound equipment train copied a train order establishing a meet with another train at Bridgehampton, superseding a previous train order which had the original meet of the two trains passing as they traveled in opposite directions at Southampton. The conductor did not deliver a copy of the train order to the engineer, and at approximately 3:30 a.m. the engineer operated past the Bridgehampton station. After the meet was changed, a train dispatcher failed to follow a procedure rescinding the westbound train's authority to proceed past the Bridgehampton location. I will say that this was a significant train incident. The engineer was advised that the train was supposed to meet, and the engineer stopped the train. The eastbound train was aware of the second train order and saw the train in his headlights. The engineer applied the train's brakes, and the train came to a stop approximately 700 feet from the westbound train. The westbound train waited. There was a reverse move made by the eastbound, the eastbound train waited until the westbound train made a reverse move. As a result of the incident, which, while, we are very concerned, about train procedures and train orders, this is an area that is not signalized, and it depends heavily on strict adherence to all operating rules. The operating rules actually have two procedures to ensure that you have a safe operation. One is that the conductor has to deliver the train order to an engineer, and the second is that the dispatcher has to clear through the block operator that everybody has received the correct orders. In this particular incident, there was a breakdown in both of those procedures. This required a complete review and shakedown of all of our procedures and development of a new corrective action plan. We assessed discipline with the 6 employees involved as part of, and I want to focus on really the corrective action. We identified the relevant rules that were in play and that should have been adhered to. And we've developed a new set of rules and procedures, primarily focusing on ensuring that we have correct supervision in place, that train dispatching understands its function, and that we have more restrictive protocols in how the train orders are delivered. And dispatching will not let any train proceed until orders have been delivered and that is confirmed. Needless to say, this is an ongoing effort to audit compliance. Anytime we find any issue not in strict adherence with these procedures, we will be removing the crew and we'll be, re-instructing where necessary. If discipline is called for, they'll be disciplined. As part of the reorganization, we have a train dispatcher qualified supervisor that has been designated as a single point of contact for coordinating all of the activities on the East End in this unsignalized territory. We've also looked at our training protocols and enhanced what we're doing with regard to retraining on the operating rules, making sure that train crews, dispatchers, and supervisors all have the enhanced training with regard to these procedures. There's been a special class on train orders that was added to the conductor qualification program, and we are looking at some of the FRA's crew resource management training modules for dispatching crews. As another initiative, we are reviewing the FRA's near-miss program. That's a program that they invited 4 railroads to participate in, 1 intercity rail, 2 freight, and 1 commuter rail that was New Jersey Transit. It is a secure phone system calling into the FRA to report train incidents, near misses, and they are collecting, data to see the number of incidents and whether they're predictive of any other behavior. So we're going to examine that program, and while we weren't, let me just clarify this point, we were not invited to participate in their program, and when we indicated our interest in it, they said, no, it's closed. We're only going with a pilot program of 4 railroads. But they will share information about how their program was designed, and we're going to review that with a view toward implementing one at Long Island Railroad. Our concern, of course, is that we balance reporting with also our own procedures internally to investigate and discipline where appropriate. So we will do ongoing reviews, audit compliance, and we will be very intensely scrutinizing the East End operation in this unsignalized territory. This was a significant event. Ray began immediately a very comprehensive action and review. So with that, I will ask Ray to add any comments that he wants from an operational perspective, and then we'll go right to the status of operations.
With respect to the incident, I believe Helena covered everything. We are committed to making sure that our supervisors are fully trained and fully engaged and have a really focused approach to it, and they will be working with our crews that are working in that area.
Go ahead.
I just have one comment. We had a discussion about this at the Long Island Committee, not the council, but through emails, and I think one of the concerns we've had over a couple of years is sort of we're concerned about the culture on the railroad, whether there's really a commitment. How much there's a commitment to safety? There seems to be. But when you see incidents like that, you start to wonder, and I appreciate trying to get into the FRA program and something where you'd interview the crews with no penalty, but like, did something happen? What happened? How do you feel about safety? What do you think is the problem? I mean, sort of involving the crews more and seeing what they think is going on, and even if they report, and maybe even having a reporting or a conference thing after a trip where, something might have happened where one crew covered for another, but maybe they should, you don't want to have a program where people rat out on one another because that's not going to work. But it should, are these things happening and we don't know about them and one crew member covers for another? And should that, we should look at that. I would appreciate that type of program.
I think you're, raising a point that does concern us. Could incidents be occurring that supervision and management are not aware of? And would a near-miss program where you have reporting anonymously or some balance of free from, certain reactions, encourage better reporting. That's why we think this program has value. We want to look at it. We also do have another mechanism we're going to use. Our transmissions, our phone calls between block operators and dispatchers are recorded. And we're going to do more spot checking and auditing of those transmissions, those phone conversations, just to determine whether there's anything that needs to rise, to a full level.
The most concern here is this was a double failure. Two people failed. So that's, the system has safety designed into it, but somehow we had and usually that's when you have an accident, is when you have a double failure. Well, but thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the operating report for the month of September begins on page number 26 of the Long Island Railroad portion of the book. And the month-to-date on-time performance for September was 95.61%. That is a new record for September. The AM peak on-time performance was 96.58%. The PM peak was 93.76%. And the off-peak was at 95.77%. Looking at our year-to-date numbers, we have 3 new records in that area. The overall on-time performance through September 30th is 95.58%, which is a record. The AM is 96.23%, which is a record. The PM is 93.76, and the off-peak is 95.8, which is also a new record. There were 7 100% rush hours during September, 6 in the AM and 1 in the PM. Year-to-date, we have 63, which is just short of our record of 66 that was set in 1993. AM car availability was met each day of September, and the mean distance between failure for our fleets, these numbers are for August because we lag a month. The M7 MBDF exceeded the increased goal of 300,000 miles, and the MBDF goal was also exceeded for the M3, C3, DE, and total fleet. The most significant major event during the month occurred on Friday, September 25th, and that was a problem overnight in Penn Station in the Amtrak tunnels. There was a track condition found in the JO interlocking, and then a second problem was found on line 4, which would have more of a serious impact on the morning rush hour. So we had to have the crews move to take care of the problem on line 4 and run with a speed restriction for the problem in JO interlocking. So that resulted in a total of 41 late trains. Significant during the month is we handled the Mets and U.S. Tennis Open, with 44,000 customers brought to the U.S. Tennis Open. And we were assisted in that effort by the MTA Police, and the MTA Police have also been helping us plan our Vowdy outage for this weekend that I know Helena's going to spend more time on. And that's the operating report, and if there are any questions.
I just wanted to make a comment to you. So when you do sit in your next commuter council meeting, then you are discussing the meetings and the state of the state here. I hope you also bring up the on-time performance.
Oh, I do, yes. Yes, but I just want to comment, I mean, the diesels is still an issue. I was very happy. At the last commuter council meeting, Maintenance Mike, one of the diesel dudes, came to our meeting, and it was very informative, and I know you had offered to have, and I think we'll maybe have them come out and talk with us, the diesel task force. That'd be great. But I would appreciate maybe a quarterly report or a 6-month report that you would give to give us updates. I understand they're complicated problems. There's also the issue of the overhauls. And I just want to put that on the record that we got to look at, because it's overhaul schedule and they're going to be postponed, so that's an ongoing issue.
Also talk about the mean distance between failures.
Which almost got there for everyone except for one.
Right.
Except for one.
Yes, there's a slow increase in MDBF for now, and I think
That's the only
that's
one.
encouraging.
Yep.
For now, diesels are it's a little encouraging here, but we want to see some long range.
And we're going to provide you with some follow-up information on how we do manage under the circumstances with our shop configuration overhaul.
Okay, right.
We want to give you some detail on that. because we, of course, are, managing through the process.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me, just so we stay on schedule, I'm going to turn to Kathleen Finneran, our Chief of Police, who has that update.
Good morning. The crime report is located on page 45 in the Long Island Railroad section of the book. And I'm happy to report that for the 7 reportable major felonies, we only have a slight increase in our grand larcenies, which we're monitoring closely. And as Ray had mentioned, we're working with transportation for the upcoming outage at Valley this weekend. We'll have details in place at all the busing locations and extra patrols on the central branch to protect that branch during the outage. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions? No? Okay.
Okay, and Kevin Tomlinson on Capital Program.
Good morning. The capital program highlights are found in Section 5 and includes 4 milestones for the month of September. The first is the construction start of the shop reconfiguration and equipment replacement at the Hillside Maintenance Complex. Second is construction start of Powell Creek Bridge and Hog Island Channel Bridge replacements on our Long Beach branch. Third is the construction start of Dutch Kills Bridge rehabilitation on our Lower Montauk. And last is the construction start of the rehabilitation of retaining walls and 6 bridge abutments on our Port Washington branch. The standard project updates for Central Islip Police Facility, Atlantic Avenue Viaduct, East Side Access, Atlantic Terminal, and Mainline Quarters Improvement Project are found in that section also. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Any questions on capital construction? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have one information item, that is the November schedule adjustments that accommodates track work that's being done. And we have outlined with the new timetable on November 9th those changes. We're very pleased we're using, the time before our winter months to get a number of important projects done, crossing renewals, work at interlockings, and a continual effort on tie replacement. Also, the Shore Road Bridge replacement and drainage work will occur on 2 consecutive weekends, requiring some service outage as well, November 14th, 15th, and the 21st and 22nd. And we look forward to that work getting done in our schedule. We always want to emphasize how important it is when we, try to maximize the weekend opportunities to get work done. With that, we're going to turn to the procurement package, and if I have it in front of me. Yeah. Wait a second. Hold on one second. Somewhere in here.
Non-competitive?
This is right there. Thank you. Dennis always has me covered. There are 3 procurements in this month's package totaling $2.5 million. There are 2 items in the non-competitive section totaling $2.47 million and 1 ratification. The 2 items on the non-competitive section are joint procurements led by the Long Island Railroad. Again, I want to emphasize how much work is going on amongst the agencies to do joint procurements. The first one you can see involves Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and Sertoa for infrastructure equipment used by all 3 railroads. The second item is a sole source contract on behalf of both Long Island Railroad and Metro North. And again, it's for a 3-year period on repair and maintain railroad switch heaters. And may I have a vote, please, on the non-competitive procurements?
Any questions on either of the new non-competitive?
I move them.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There are no competitive items in this month's report, but we do have 1 ratification, and that involves a small contract with First Data Government Solutions, which helps maintain our mail and ride interactive voice recognition. This was originally a New York State contract that expired. We wanted to extend the contract directly with the company, and they agreed to hold their prices for 1 year under the original state contract prices. So we request a vote on this ratification.
Any questions on this item? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
And with that, I'm going to conclude with, again, a review of our weekend outage for the Valley Interlocking Project. This is a very significant project on switch and signal modernization, with a great deal of work being done on this $60 million project over a number of years, culminating in the weekend effort to now cut over to the new system. So we will go to our microprocessors. Major portions of the South Shore branches will have no service. So the branches affected, West Hempstead, Long Beach, Far Rockaway, Babylon branch, and trains between Ronkonkoma and Greenport will all be affected. We will be offering substitute bus service with the help of Long Island Bus, but we do want to encourage our customers to use the North Shore branches, which are not affected by the work. We encourage them go to North Shore branches where we'll offer service without the same diversions and bus substitution. Now, we did want to share with you Long Island Railroad's taking the plunge to Facebook, which is one of the new social networking tools that all our children understand and use, but we're just beginning to understand. We have put a video up on Facebook, Long Island Railroad site, and we were just going to take a moment to show it to you.
Go ahead. The Valley interlocking work is the culmination of all the work the railroad has been doing all these years.
Yes.
In preparation for this weekend. And now that this weekend has finally come, and hopefully on Monday it will be gone, we will be into the new system as we had planned for all these years.
That is correct.
That's the purpose of this weekend.
This weekend is the big cutover from the old system
Right.
to the new system. It involves tremendous testing of each relay switch that's getting replaced with microprocessors. But to your point, over 29 switches, 23 signals, 25 miles of track have all been prepped, ready
Right.
for this big weekend on the cutover.
Good.
Okay, with that.
System, controlled by a few clicks of a mouse, means fewer maintenance-related delays, a more efficient LIRR, and better service for our customers. Now, much of the work on this big-time modernization project has already taken place over the last several years, but on the weekend of October 24th and 25th, we must subject it to rigorous testing before we put it all into service. So, since we can't run trains through this vital interlocking during the signal cutover weekend, there'll be a 48-hour suspension of train service through Valley Stream. And that means many of our customers will be inconvenienced during those 2 days. We are doing everything we can, however, to lessen the impact. For customers planning on using the Long Island Railroad that weekend along the Far Rockaway, Long Beach, West Hempstead, Babylon, and Montauk branches, and the Ronkonkoma branch east of Ronkonkoma only, we advise you to plan ahead and allow extra time, in some cases up to 50 additional minutes, for your trip. On the Far Rockaway branch, there will be no train service east of Rosedale. Customers will transfer to or from a bus at Rosedale for stations Valley Stream through Far Rockaway. Long Beach branch customers will have shuttle trains operating locally between Lynbrook and Long Beach throughout the weekend, but buses will replace trains between Lynbrook and Jamaica. There will be no train service on the West Hempstead branch throughout the weekend. Instead, buses will replace train service between Jamaica and stations St. Albans through West Hempstead. There will be a combination of bus service and diverted trains on the Babylon branch, depending on which station you use. Rockville Center and Baldwin customers will be bused between Jamaica and their respective stations. Customers at stations Freeport through Lindenhurst will be provided with hourly shuttle trains between their station and Babylon, where they will transfer to a train heading north to Hicksville and points west. Buses will replace trains throughout the weekend east of Ronkonkoma through Greenport. Finally, Montauk branch customers should anticipate schedule adjustments, including earlier departure times to accommodate extra stops. In addition, some Montauk trains will be diverted to the main line via the Central branch. Bottom line, if you plan to use the LIRR on the weekend of October 24th and 25th, the best way to avoid delays Ronkonkoma line, west of Ronkonkoma, all of which will be unaffected by the work. Service will return to normal on October 26th, and we sure do thank you for your patience as we take this critical step to modernize the LIRR. For more information, you can always check out our website at www.mta.info or call our Travel Information Center. Our travel information phone numbers are printed on every special timetable.
Pete Palmera, who did the video, is here. Pete, just stand up for a moment. He does an outstanding job for us. You've seen him in our videos before.
We at the Long Island Railroad would like to modernization project.
No.
No.
Or a politician.
No,
There we go.
Pete's an employee.
Pete's our employee. He does a great job. Again, we want to highlight that we've put this on Facebook. We have done a massive outreach in terms of customer communication to let them know how important the project is and how they can still travel on public transit. And with that, we'd answer any questions.
Anybody have anything else? I just want to make one announcement, notwithstanding what it says in the book. The next meeting is November 9th, not November 10th of the committee, due to a variety of circumstances. So don't assume, while everything else in the book is true, what's on page 2 is not. So with that, we adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.